Jamil Jivani, longtime conservative activist. If you've been around the conservative ecosphere, you know that name. Writes sometimes in post media, sort of True North adjacent sometimes. He is a very freedom-minded conservative. I think he was Pierre Poilievre's hand-selected pick for the Durham riding. And it's no surprise that he won the Durham riding. That is a conservative stronghold. He was running in Erin O'Toole's old riding, who sort of took his books and went home after he lost the conservative leadership to Pierre Poilievre. So Jamil Jivani, he is an ethnic minority, young man, someone the Liberals would definitely court if they could, but he's a conservative and a smart guy. And here's what I find most interesting. Jamil Jivani, he is sort of the new crop of pro-freedom, very blue Tories, none of this like purple or red Tory business, pro-freedom, pro-free speech, anti-mandates. He's been critical of critical race theory, sort of pro-parents' rights. And he took O'Toole's seat, I think, by 11% higher than O'Toole did. So O'Toole was a shoo-in there. He won his seat with 46% of the vote in the 2021 snap election that Justin Trudeau called in the middle of the pandemic for very suspicious reasons. But Jivani got 57% of the vote. I love that he's holding up a wrestling-style belt. And he got 11% more than Noodles and Butter O'Toole. And the Liberals threw everything they could at him and the kitchen sink. The Trudeau Liberals were campaigning in that riding hard. I think they sent every single cabinet minister into the riding to knock doors. I think Justin Trudeau was there at least once because they didn't want it to be a blowout. Well, it was a blowout and then some. And so that is a lesson, I think, for Erin O'Toole style conservatives, that if you are bold and aggressive and unashamed in your conservatism, you will win. If you offer an alternative to the Liberals, instead of just being like Liberals in blue ties, you'll do well. That's what happened here in Alberta too. But it's also a message to the Liberals. I think this is a harbinger of the next election, that it is going to be even more punishing for the Liberals than they think it's going to be, because they couldn't even narrow the gap in Durham if they tried, and they did. They did everything they could. So good. That's really not what they're talking about in the mainstream media on Jivani's win, right? Like they're talking about, oh, you know, it's no surprise. It was conservative riding. It was Erin O'Toole's riding, former leaders. So of course it was a safe seat for the Conservatives. That is true. But the 11-point improvement over the last time round, that says something to both the Liberals, but the noodles and butter vegetable lasagna version of the Tories that I hope have been relegated to the sidelines now that Pierre Poilievre's in town. Let's keep going. Now, Jamil Jivani, I'm hopeful about his brand of conservatism because he pulls no punches with anybody, including someone he used to work for, and that is Premier Doug Ford. So Jivani used to do some work for the Ontario Tories, and then he became a critic of Rob Ford, as many conservative types have become, including myself. I thought he would be more like his brother. Instead, he's more like Justin Trudeau. But somebody had the temerity, as my friend David Menzies says, to ask Doug Ford about what could be possible tensions between the federal Conservatives now that one of his critics is occupying the seat in Durham. So let's hear from Doug Ford.
Jamil Jivani won Durham for the federal Conservatives earlier this week. He was an advisor to your government a few years ago. In his victory speech, he said liberal elites are betraying the working people of this country, including the liberal elites who run the Ontario Ministry of Education in this province, implying Minister Lecce. What's your response to this, and are you worried about federal Conservatives railing against your ministers like this?
Yeah, I'm not worried about Jamil. I gave that young man an opportunity. He showed up. No one even knew who he was. Came in my office. I gave him an incredible opportunity. To be very frank, you go to root cause, he wouldn't even be where he is if I didn't give him that opportunity. So I just want to wish Jamil all the best. He should focus on maybe the carbon tax. Maybe he should come in. I'll give him a couple lessons on how to speak to his constituents and that. But he should really focus putting money back into their pockets, and focus on the carbon tax. We're doing great for the people of Ontario. We're going to do great for his riding that he's going to represent. I want to wish him all the best, and hopefully he wins that riding.
You know the gall of that guy. Jamil Jivani busted his butt in that riding. He's a former broadcaster. So there's this collection, an encyclopedia of what he thinks about certain issues. He's written about them. He's spoken about them. He's a longtime Conservative activist. Jamil Jivani has helped other people get elected. He helped Doug Ford's government until there's no helping Doug Ford's government. And I appreciate that Jamil Jivani is honest in his criticism of Doug Ford and Stephen Lecce, a man who deserves a lot of criticism because on the outside looking in, I look and see absolute mayhem in the Ontario education system. You've got these like teachers with fake boobs running around and all manner of nonsense. It was, a year of protesting what's going on in the curriculum in Ontario schools, and Lecce was completely absent. We've got dysfunctional school boards like that one and the Ottawa Carleton District School Board with Neely Kaplan-Worth. It's just insane. And he is completely asleep at the switch. So yeah, it's a fair criticism from Jamil Jivani. What Doug Ford doesn't like is that it is honest criticism. You can't write it off as, it's a liberal saying that, so it is their job to oppose what the Conservatives do. Or that's from the mainstream media, and you know how they don't like us Conservatives. You can write off conservative or criticism coming from those directions as a Conservative politician. You can't write it off when it's coming from someone who used to work for you, who didn't change teams. He is now the MP in Durham. So it's hard to say that Jamil Jivani's criticism of Doug Ford is dishonest or politically motivated from a progressive viewpoint. So that probably very much stung Doug Ford, and he deserves it. But then to also say, I made him? Who the hell are you to take credit for the work that young man did to get himself elected? I say young man, he's 36. But I'm older. But yeah, what are you doing taking credit for his work? He did that. He doesn't need any lessons from Doug Ford about how to speak to his constituents. I'll be surprised if Doug Ford wins the next election. I will. I'll be shocked. And if he does somehow, by the skin of his teeth, pull it off, it'll be thanks to help from the federal Conservative Party that will deploy their infrastructure and their volunteers and their MPs like Jamil Jivani to help pull it out of the fire for Doug Ford. So he should maybe shut his yap and listen a little bit.